I think it's safe to say it has been spinning for quite some time when it comes to Carlo Ancelotti and the Brazilian national team. Back in 2023, the Brazilian Federation President Ednaldo Rodrigues saying Ancelotti will coach Brazil at the 2024 Copa America. At the time, Real Madrid's deal with him was set to expire that following year. Then in December of 2023, Real Madrid saying he's not going anywhere. Ancelotti is with us through June of 2026. Then a couple years later, the rumors resurface again. Reports saying that Ancelotti would leave Real Madrid at the end of what is now this season. He denied those reports, and a couple months later, they came back. Reports saying that Real Madrid made contact with Xabi Alonso about potentially replacing Ancelotti at the end of the season. And then a couple weeks later, they resumed contact, the Brazilian Federation rather, resuming contact with Ancelotti, saying that he would take over the Brazilian national team ahead of the 2026 World Cup. And then following Saturday's Copa del Rey final loss, Ancelotti came out and said, I could stay, I could go. And then last night, the newest report is now that Brazil is in advanced negotiations to have a final offer ready for Ancelotti. All right, for more on that, we bring in our guy, Mbizo. Mbizo, I'm coming to you on all this, all this rumor mill. We've seen this before many a times. Is it for real this time when it comes to Ancelotti?
Well, I think many Brazilians are hoping so. Obviously, Carlo Ancelotti is one of the most decorated managers in football at the moment, probably of all time, actually, considering. And so people are very excited about the prospect. As you mentioned there, this has been a negotiation that's a long time coming. First contact made in 2023. Some claims were made about him taking over the year after, which didn't happen. Of course, he renewed his contract with Real Madrid. But all things considered and their difficult outings, firstly versus Arsenal, and then of course to fall to Barcelona in the Copa del Rey, that's obviously accelerated things, and there's a lot of doubt over Ancelotti's continuation with Real Madrid. So it looks like it's going to happen, and of course one of the things that's on the table is making him the highest paid, one of the highest paid coaches in the world, and so that's obviously an attractive prospect as well. He knows the players, and so many of the players, the principal players anyway. So it looks like it's something that can happen.
What kind of a job is Ancelotti potentially walking into? What are the expectations here?
Look, it's a difficult job that he's coming into. I don't think Brazil is worried anymore about qualifying. I think that one is already set. We believe we'll be there at the big dance. I think the issue now are the performances. The issue now is getting Brazil back to playing an attractive style of football where they're once again feared on the global stage, as opposed to now where they're taken as a very mediocre team, and they've been performing as a very mediocre team, despite the number of talents that they have. So what they're really looking for Dorival to do is to match the prestige, the talent, and the quality of the players to the performance, as well as recapture Brazil's, Brazil's quality and talent across their history. But it's a difficult job, and I mean, there's still a lot of contractual details that they need to sort out, including these performance targets, for example. But his job is going to be very difficult, especially considering some of the accusations and some of the revelations that are ongoing in the CBF managerial arena at this current juncture in time.
Let's say something doesn't quite get over the line, something doesn't get signed. Who would you like to see Brazil target, if not Ancelotti?
I think one of the backup plans for this Ancelotti signing is obviously Jorge Jesus. I think who's still is at Al Hilal, I think it's Saudi Arabia, and he's had extremely successful tenures here in Brazil, and he's very aware of the culture of the game here. Obviously, he took Flamengo to new heights in his tenure there as well. So that's a manager who I'd love to see given a shot. I think he has more proximity to the culture and the expectations here in the nation. I think that would be a good shout. But again, from my personal perspective, and from that of many different proponents in the Brazilian game, is that perhaps this is a cosmetic change, and it is another extravagant spending by the CBF that perhaps will bring some short-term benefits. But in the long term, is it really necessarily the correct decision? I'm not sure that it is. But look, exciting times either way. I think both Ancelotti and Jorge Jesus would do a good job in the short term.
What sort of embrace would the public give towards the likes of Ancelotti or any foreign manager coming to the Seleção?
I think you're going to have really a split populace. I think many people believe that the level of these players has outgrown any available Brazilian coach, and that no Brazilian coach is necessarily proven capable of managing the national team, not solely because of the players, but I think because of the expectations in the modern game, which then again goes back to CBS's responsibility in the development of managers in the country. But then you have a lot of people saying, no, look, listen, we can't have a foreign manager. We are Brazil. We need to have somebody who's familiar with the culture. We need to have somebody who understands the history of Brazilian football and how to get back to that echelon, to those great heights that we once reached. And so I think you're really going to have a split populace. And I think what it'll come down to in the end is whether Ancelotti can get the results on the football field. And I think he will be obviously lauded if he can get those results. But again, there's some deep-seated problems here that Ancelotti will be walking into, and he may be judged not necessarily in his own capacity, because we all know he's a fantastic manager, but because of the general context of Brazilian football at the moment, you might have quite a clash between those who believe he's the right manager and those who believe that we should be looking more internally and continuing to develop the game, not just on the football pitch, but in the managerial positions as well.
Do you think that maybe some of the push toward Ancelotti, aside from the tactics and the capacity to sort of get a team to play, right, is his experience in dealing with these sort of stars? Like, let's face it, Brazil does have a lot of star power, and it does take a special kind of reverence for your manager to sort of get them under thumb where there is a mutual respect moving forward. And that sort of is like the extra sauce that maybe is like leaning toward Ancelotti. Outside of him, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but what other big manager do you think would be capable of sort of stepping into this role if you could have like this hoop dream?
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic analysis there, Cupo. That's precisely what they're looking for in Ancelotti. He's an experienced manager who's going to be able to handle these stars, who will have a reverence for him. In particular, obviously, his own players, Vinicius Jr., Rodrigo, Eder Militão. These players would really look up to him, and they feel like he would have the correct profile to be able to manage all of these superstars. Again, I think it's difficult to imagine foreign coaches, not being interested in the Brazilian job if it weren't for some of the difficulties that the CBF is going through. For me, once upon a time, there was a pipe dream about Pep Guardiola as well. These are the kinds of managers that Brazil believes that they deserve. But again, I would go with somebody who's at least familiar with the Brazilian landscape. Another good name that they've thrown out is Abel Ferreira, who's been doing extremely well. Obviously, he's Portuguese, but he's been doing very well again with Palmeiras. And Palmeiras plays in a very pragmatic style that people are saying that perhaps Brazil needs a little bit more discipline, a little bit more hard work, a little bit more organization, as opposed to letting the players just play, which they feel is what Dorival and some other coaches have been doing, and it hasn't been working out. So again, Jorge Jesus, Abel Ferreira, those are the two coaches that I might expect to be able to pull off the job in terms of their overall contributions. But Ancelotti is there for precisely that. He's decorated, he's experienced, he's high profile, and they believe that that is the answer to Brazil's at least short-term issues.
Is Carlo Ancelotti in Brazil coaching the national team before the June World Cup qualifiers?
Yep. If I'm a betting man, he's going to be confirmed certainly before the next international break. They're going to iron out all the contractual issues, the bonuses, the length of contract, probably going to be contracted until 2030 from my perspective. And CBF will be able to buy themselves some respite before Brazil comes crashing down on them.
All right. Mbizo, thank you so much. As always, good to see you.